Um, there have been a lot of people getting in touch with both myself and Jennifer that they're not getting the link. And there really are three reasons one will get this link. First one is that something goes wrong with the website and MailChimp that sends out the mass mailings. That's never happened. So I think that's going to be the second one, and it's probably the most reasonable, is that sometimes these emails go to your spam. And before you get in touch with me or Jennifer, check your spam, see if the link is there. And the third reason is a reason I don't really like to talk about, but I often take people off my list. I don't see them for a long time, like a month, 2 months. I mean, it's really hard for me to do that. But if it's a month, 2 months go by and somebody just vanishes, I will take their name off the list. Because there's something I understand very profoundly about this meditation practice. Consistency is really what makes it work. Coming, working on yourself, being consistent about it, and really overcoming any obstacles that keep you from doing this. It makes it work. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes a lot of work. And when people show up every couple of months, it's very hard for me. First of all, I like you all, and it's very difficult for me to go. And I mean, some people I know their situation, they stay in touch with me. So, okay, they miss classes, it's all right. But if somebody just vanishes and just disappears, I, uh, I really don't have the patience for that because I worked very hard to do this. And I'm not commending myself, but it really is a big effort to sustain 70 of these classes a week online, plus class at home, and God knows what else I do during the week. So I'm asking people to make that commitment. Come a few times a week. If you can't make it, just email me and say, hey, this is coming up. Look, I'm just a human being, and I'm not going to, turn on anybody because they have family situations and work situations. But let me know. Don't just vanish. Don't just disappear, you know, because I just get like, okay, if the person doesn't want to be here, I'll just take their name off the list. I want people to grow and truly learn what this is all about. I want them to develop a spiritual life. I would hope somewhere in the future, people would be able to do this they would be able to teach this to other people. But it takes training. And this has nothing to do with ego and who you think you are and what you want to do. It has to do with the evolution of your consciousness, the development of a chakra system, an inner life that is ready to do that. And and if I see that in anybody, boy, you really get the focus of my attention, you know? So I'm just telling you all this. And hopefully it's clear. As I say, there've been a lot of people that are being in touch here. Well, I haven't gotten the link. I haven't gotten the link. And most of it is because the link is in their spam box, not in their inbox. And if they just go check it out, they'll probably find it there. And if not, get in touch with me and I'll send you an invitation. And if it keeps happening, then maybe we just have to change your email address or something so that you can get, an invitation, a link for all the classes. Okay, we'll have a meditation. And if anyone has a question afterwards, I'll be more than happy to try and answer it. Does anyone have a question? Over the last couple of years, I've been writing this Tantra book, and miracle of miracles, by next Friday, the last two will be posted on my website. It's hard for me to believe that I really got through that and was able to produce that work. And get down to this simple reality, which I've learned about my life. It wasn't me that produced the work. It was an energy force that came through and it manifested as this book. And I think it's not only books and music, and life itself has to manifest that way. Something creative, something special, something precious, something sacred, that not only flows through us, but really nurtures us as human beings so that we can grow every day and make something special of our lives. It's not just the ordinary, kind of life that most people live, but it becomes something special because it's this higher force of energy that creates it. I mean, that's how children come into the world. That higher energy creates them. We're just vehicles through which they come here. And then their souls have to find what they're here on the earth to find. And mostly it's just how to be happy, how to have love, how to have joy in their lives, how to get free of karma. Does anyone have a question?
Hi, Stuart, it's Eva. Um,
Yeah.
Tonight I felt like when I was in the root chakra, it kind of automatically opens my heart in a very distinct, different way. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, you need to have, look, the heart is a very fragile place. It's like an energy that comes, something good happens, it opens, something bad happens, it closes. It's a very fragile place. It's a very transient place. And in order for it to stay open, the root chakra below the navel has to be really strong. It has to be highly developed. And that becomes, then it's like a stem coming out of the roots, and the hearts are like petals, that open and they greet the sun, they greet life, they allow some kind of perfume to emanate from us that touches other human beings. But the root is essential. Without the root chakra being open, then the heart will never stay open. It just opens, it closes, it opens, it closes, depending upon circumstance. And it shouldn't be dependent upon circumstance. It should be, a permanent, sustainable reality, of love, of, that is so essential for every human being's life. And we have the tendency to blame the external world why there's not love in our life. And it's not true. There's not love in our life because we haven't developed a system inside that allows us to stay open. And once the heart chakra can stay open, and honestly, it's directly connected to the root, to the core, the hara, the chi, the power inside a human being. So look, I mean, do I know the answer? I don't know. I frankly don't even know what I know anymore. I just kind of open and let things express themselves. I do know that consistency of inner work, as I spoke earlier, the development of a chakra system, because one has training, one has really worked on themselves long enough and deep enough to build a chakra system, that will effectually touch every single area of one's life. We suddenly have patience with everyone instead of jumping down people's throats. We suddenly begin to see the kindness, the goodness in other human beings. We suddenly begin to see that most people that are supposedly dark and evil, I mean, there's just a hunger in them. That's the only way they know how to reach out and touch the world. It's really a need for love that creates that insanity. Power, control. Politicians want people to adore them. But that to do it in a conscious way and a loving way, not through the ego and not through the mind and not through we think in our brain is coming to us, but through true openness, a sustainable openness that can touch the world. It's dependent upon the development of the root chakra, because there lies the strength to do what I'm talking about. Once that chakra is highly developed, the heart chakra, all you need is gratitude for your life, and the heart chakra will just open.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I remember once, I'll never forget it. There was a woman I once in Los Angeles. She used to have a television program interviewing all kinds of, supposedly spiritual people. And I had a student who was good friends with her, and we stayed at her apartment, and I'll never forget, she had to go to this lunch, and all these celebrities and movie stars were supposed to be at the lunch. And she was completely frazzled. I mean, you look at her and it was really scary how completely unhinged she was. So I told her, sit down. She sat down. I started doing a little healing exercise with her and started drawing out the tension and opening up her heart. And after about 15 minutes of that, she looked at herself in the mirror and she literally looked 10 years younger. She was centered below the navel. Her heart was open. The mind was quiet. She looked 10 years younger. And she said to me, what happened? What happened to me? I said, you opened your heart. Now you have to keep it open. Whether she did or not, I don't know. I never saw her again. But I hope she did, because it was amazing the transformation that took place in that person. And it was simply opening the heart. You got to let go of the past. It doesn't matter in our present day life what anybody did to us. Doesn't matter. Because as long as we hold on to it and as long as we're angry and we're upset, it just destroys us living in the present. And the whole purpose of meditation is to build a system inside where we can sustainably live our lives in the now, in the moment, in the present. And as long as we're holding on to things from the past, whatever they are, good things, bad things, all kind, you know, uh, it takes away from the capacity to stay focused in the hara, to keep the heart open, to have a quiet mind and to be able to live one's life in this moment, to respond to the world, you know, as somebody living in the present, not somebody who's tortured by the past or, all concerned and worried about the future. As I say in my book, the future is just today becoming tomorrow. And if you do today well, tomorrow's going to be all right. If you screw up today, tomorrow's going to be screwed up also.
Oh, I love that saying.
Well, it's true. We need to learn this. And how do you learn it? You got to get training. You got to get development. You have to work on yourself in the kind of depth that brings this about. I always wonder why people leave. In the middle of talking about these things, people leave. I suddenly see their name and they're gone, you know? It's very funny. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And as I've said many times, we don't have to go shopping at Home Depot in order to find the tools to do what I'm talking about. We're born with them. We all breathe. We all have minds. We all have will. We all have needs for things. I mean, we come to the earth. Our soul is born with them. And all meditation is about is learning to use those tools consciously to develop a system that allows the heart to stay open, for there be joy inside, and to live, a happy life, a wonderful life.
Stuart, could you talk about drawing our needs that are interfering with other parts of our life to the base of the spine and maybe burning them up? Am I wrong there?
No, no, you're not wrong, Richard, because you have to look. We all have, one thing a human being has that animals don't have is choice. We can choose how we want to spend our time, what we want to do with our day. And yes, we have to work, we have jobs, we have businesses to run, we have all this stuff to do. But I've discovered that if the need to have a spiritual life is strong enough, it's not this or that. It's everything. It's this and that, and that, and that. And it's like in the Old Testament, Moses with the wand and the Red Sea, suddenly life becomes that way. Your need to have a spiritual life opens up doors that enable you to do your spiritual work as well as take care of your family, work, everything. You can do everything. Go to the movies, go to theater, have a life, go to restaurants, you can do everything. You have become big enough to be able to manage this. And the world falls into place. It's amazing how it falls into place.
So it's not necessarily to get rid of needs, it's to integrate everything.
No, look, there's a primary need that one has to have, and that's to have a spiritual life. And if that need is primary and we focus on it, everything else will fall into place. Be able to come to meditation, be able to nurture your family, take care of your work, everything. I mean, look, I've told this story 1,000 times. When I was younger and I was studying with Rudy, being in his classes was tantamount to anything. I had to be there. And I remember I used to work as a waiter, and that's how I earned a living between the age of about 20 and 25. And I remember I would go to I would get down to my last $5 and I'd find a restaurant to work in. And well, you got to be here at this time and this time. They always gave me a schedule. And I remember that I needed to be in Rudy's classes very deeply. And I remember I needed a job. I needed money. I had to pay rent. I had to feed myself. I had to take care of myself. And I walked into a restaurant up on Third Avenue in the 80s in Manhattan. And I met the manager and I said, "Do you have a job open for wait?" "Oh, yes, yes." He said, "What hours do you want to work?" I'll never forget that as long as I live. What hours do I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I told him I would like to work boom, 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 boom. He said, "Fine, I'll put you in the schedule." And all of Rudy's classes were open to me to attend. Well, the only way I can understand that is my need was so strong to have a spiritual life that God began to listen, you know, and began to, you know, make my life. And then my whole life became that way. I mean, I was in the art business for 30 years, and being in the art business enabled me to do 1,000 things. Travel to Europe, go to teach meditation all over the world. I mean, I'd go to Brazil and I'd go to some antique shop and buy 3 things and it paid for my trip. Bring them back to New, it paid for my trip. I was able to go spend 10 days there and teach. I'd go to Europe, it was the same thing. I go to London, I knew some dealers, I would buy a few things, it would pay for my trip, enable me to go to Paris, to Athens, to Zurich, to, you know, Berlin. And all I did in those places was teach meditation. And then I'd buy 3 or 4 things. So God was working for me. That was amazing. I was totally astonished how it works for you if the need to have a spiritual life and to serve a higher energy. It enabled me to provide a fabulous place for my family to live, my wife, my ex-wife, and my daughter, and, you know, I had this house in Woodstock that was like a miracle. I couldn't believe it when I walked in there and the guy told me how much he wanted for it. I said, I could, it was like the cost of a bathroom in Manhattan. And the place was a 7,000 square foot mansion, you know, beautiful, architectural masterpiece. It works. But my primary need has always been my spiritual practice. And it took care of everything else. So I never had an excuse. You know, can't be in meditation because you know, I used to have clients that would call me up, and I used to sell very expensive stuff. It wasn't cheap stuff. Oh yeah, I want to come look at that bronze and that painting and blah blah blah. Can I come at 7 o'clock? You know, and I said, no, I have a meditation class to teach at 7 o'clock. Can you come at 8:30? All right, I'll be there at 8:30. I never lost a client. There was no tension. There was no, yeah, just my purpose was to serve higher energy. And it took me a long time to become conscious of this, to realize it, and to really truly live that way. I had to overcome Stuart in order to do that.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. And the primary need was to be with God. Whatever I had to do was serve on the earth, become a child of God. That was the primary need. And all the rest of it just worked. And it started out selling rusty wrenches and wagon wheels in Denton, Texas. So, you know, for $15, $30, you know, ended up selling major works of art to museums all over the world. I mean, it was unbelievable how it just evolved. And then it took care of all. I mean, look, when I ran that place on Fourth Avenue, I mean, it was costing me $10,000, $15,000 a month to run that place. So my economic life forced me, you know, my spiritual life forced me to learn how to be in business. I had no choice. It was very expensive to run that loft that I was running in Manhattan. So all I'm saying is that the need to have a spiritual life, everything falls in place. And it all even the negative things begin to work for you. And there always will be negative things. They work for you also. Remember once I had when I had Fourth Avenue, just tell you these stories. I had a landlord who was not, nobody liked him, but I liked him, and he and I got along. And I found out that the guy who had the loft beneath me was paying $2,000 a month less for the loft than I was. And the landlord always told me I was his favorite tenant. So I went to him, and I don't think this has ever happened in New York. I went to him one day. He owned all these barbecue restaurants in New York. So I went to talk to him one day in one of his restaurants. And I said, Herb, I said, you told me I'm your best client. You told me that, you're charging the guy beneath me $2,000 a month less than me every month. So he looked at me with a smile. He said, all right, pay me $2,000 less a month. I don't think it ever happened in the history of New York that a landlord lowered the rent $2,000 to a tenant. I mean, I just cracked up. I couldn't believe my ears. It was God working, you know? Anyway, I'm just telling you all these things because if the primary need is to be a child of God, to have a spiritual life, to become enlightened, all the rest of it just falls in place. It does. Business, relationships, people, you know? Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. Again, thank you. God bless you all. The people, everybody is very special in my life. Thank you. There'll be a meditation on, what is today, Sunday? What is today? Sunday? Tuesday. There'll be a meditation on Tuesday. So thank you and bless you all. Have a wonderful evening and tomorrow, or there'll be meditation on Monday, tomorrow. So thank you and God bless you all. And I will see you on Monday. Thank
And I
Thank you.
think
Thank you.
you.
Good night, Stuart.
Good night.
Thank you.